generally speaking in life, you want to be the person that people call when they don't know who to call. And one of the ways that you can do that is when you are a part of, and especially when you build communities. And it's a massive value add to when people reach out to me and say, hey, I'm struggling with this. Do you know somebody? I usually know somebody. And if I don't, I hunt them down. I find somebody who can help them. And I think that's one of these 1 + 1 = 3. I know it's cliche, but it's one of these things where you can add a massive value in your network.
Welcome back to another episode of Good Work. My name's Barrett Brooks. I'm your host, and this is a podcast about how to live a meaningful life, about how to make your career matter, ultimately, how to make an impact with your life and career. Today's guest is my friend Mo Bunnell. Mo is the founder of GrowBIG and Bunnell Idea Group, which is the makers of one of the best and most in-depth trainings on sales and business development in the world. It's my go-to recommendation when it comes to clients of mine who are entrepreneurs and anyone who wants to learn business development from a very values-driven perspective, from a perspective of giving and really investing in relationships and not just closing the deal and getting the sale done, which it still is great at, interestingly. He's the author of a book, one of my new favorites, Give to Grow. This is the manual, the relationship-driven guide to developing business and winning deals, which is a great reflection of the work that they do at GrowBIG Training. Mo and I have a conversation about so much as usual, but within the first 5 minutes of this one, I think we were both tearing up as he told me the story of how he ended up chasing a donkey at elevation in the Colorado mountains and why what led to that point was so meaningful to him because it relates to his marriage and his wife and how much he values family. We spend the first half of the conversation talking about Mo's personal life and all of the things that go on behind the scene that make Mo into the kind of person you would want to learn from, the kind of person you would look up to, the kind of person I look to for wisdom and guidance and advice in my own life and business. And then we spend the second half of the conversation really digging into his philosophy, his framework for business development. And we apply it to my business as a way of making it specific and actionable. And hopefully you take something away from it for your own business or for your own career. So Mo is one of the best in the business when it comes to teaching, when it comes to helping you understand what business development looks like when it's done well. And he's one of the most relationship-driven people I know and a really kind human being. So hope you enjoy this conversation with my friend Mo Bunnell. Let's get to it. Mo Bunnell, my dear, dear friend, welcome to the show.
Barrett Brooks, I'm excited. You know, when I was looking forward to this and have been for a long time. And then like 2 days ago, this picture of you popped up on my phone, you know, like how photos give you this memory. I'm like, does the phone know I'm going to be talking with Barrett in a couple of days? It was crazy.
And it probably does.
That's right.
So I always love to start with kind of a humanizing, interesting, or unique story about my guest.
Well,
and the place, I thought of a lot of places we could start for you, but the place that I wanted to start is I'd love you to tell the story of how you ended up tied to a donkey running through the mountains of Colorado a couple years ago.
Man, so as background, there's this thing called the World Championship Pack Burro Race. And so this is a thing. This particular one starts in Fairplay, Colorado. So you're at around 10,000 feet. You run up this huge pass with a donkey with like 150 other people with donkeys. And you can imagine donkeys run in herds. So when they take off, you are being dragged up. Then there's other parts of the race where you are trying to drag your donkey. That does not go well. It's very difficult. There's hardly any times where you're both in sync. You're either dragging or being dragged. How I got there is a crazy story. And I don't know if you actually even know all this. But when Becky my wife, we've been married 32 years, as you know, 2.5 years ago, she got diagnosed with cancer. And that created a whole, just awful series of events where her immune system got compromised and she ended up getting pneumonia in the hospital and then got pneumonia again. And I think she was in the hospital like 4 times with pneumonia. And we basically spent, there was a year and a half, ended up being about 2 years in total, but there was like a year and a half where we didn't feel like we could leave the house. We couldn't be around people. Her immune system was compromised. Everything was super scary. If a friend stopped by, they would have to like stay outside the house and we would stay in the house with the door open, even if it was like December. So we were never, they were outdoors, we were indoors. Like it was crazy. As she started to emerge from that, it just get a little bit stronger. She wasn't where she needed to be. Some friends of ours were going to do the World Championship Pack Pro race. And she just like locked into it and said, I want to do this. This is going to be my marquee. I'm going to beat cancer. This is my moment where it's my comeback story. And she's an incredible athlete, but she did not have enough time to get in shape for running 15, 20 miles, I forget what it is, miles at altitude, being dragged by a donkey and all these things. But she put her mind to it and did it. And she finished. And I was there as crew. And I was like, at every single place where these trails crossed the road, I would be there cheering her on, signs and a bunch of friends. And we drive to the next spot, signs with a bunch of friends, just all the way up and back. When we got to the end, I realized that there were all these people in town and they were cheering people as they like go to Fairplay. Population of Fairplay is a couple hundred people, but it like triples in size at this race, this one day a year. It's donkey days. And anyway, all these people are watching people finish and they're like, oh, here's another person. Yay, you did it, you know? And I realized, Barrett, that like all these people were there to watch the end of the race, but they couldn't connect with the people. So I'm going to get emotional here, but I chugged a beer and I walked around and I just started telling people Becky's story. And would they cheer for her? And asking that. And word started spreading, or maybe 800 people there cheering, 600, 800. By the time she got to the finish, it was like the ending to a Disney movie. I mean, it was pure magic for 10 minutes. Everybody stood up, cheered for her as she crossed the finish line, chanting her name. She had no idea this was coming. So she's bawling her eyes out. All these people are cheering for her because she had done this thing. And it was unbelievable. So I didn't expect you to go there. But the only reason I ran the race is because the next year she couldn't do it because she was sick. So I ran it. Like I was like, who cares about me? It was her story about the donkey. That was the main thing. I just happened to do it the year after. Yeah. Anyway, wow, that's an opening. Thanks a lot, Barrett. This
Welcome to the show, Mo, where we have real human conversations about the people behind the work we love. I love this story because
did you even know that part?
I knew the part about her getting sick and you kind of subbed in. I didn't know the prior year story. So, but I do know that this is representative of so much of who you are as a human being. The way that you love and support your wife, the degree to which you are committed to your family, being an athlete in many different areas of your life, doing hard things and valuing the challenge of growing and pushing yourself. And so I just felt like while it is a funny idea to be tied to a donkey running around at elevation, it's also a really meaningful story, right? That is much deeper than that. And so there's a couple of jumping off points here. Maybe we'll just start with family. You have a family life that I admire. The people that I look up to in this world are the people who manage to have both great careers and great family lives. And I think it's exceptional and pretty rare for that to be the case. You know, you read biographies of many great people in the world, and oftentimes whatever they have done to benefit humanity has come at the cost of the people they theoretically should care about most. And I think you're an example of a person who has done incredible work in your professional life, but also really dials it in on family and makes it important. So, you know, you opened up about your wife getting cancer. This has been a big part of y'all's recent journey in your marriage, maybe a chapter now that hopefully is closed permanently and that you get to move on from. But it's emblematic of how I see you building that relationship. And I wonder what you've learned about maintaining a long-term marriage and partnership with Becky, and what you've taken away from those 32 years together.
Yeah, and hopefully 32 more. Somebody shared this with me a couple of years ago, and it was one of those unlocks where when somebody shares a framework or an idea, you thought, man, I've actually been doing that. I need to do it even more. You know, one of those kind of things. And I'd never thought of it this way, but it was so brilliant. He said, there's three ways people can live their life: drift, driven, and design. And he said, drift is where you just sort of, you're busy, you do things, you're clicking things off the to-do list, but it's, I'm 57, just turned last week. You don't really see this in your 20s and 30s because everybody seems like they're busy. But I have a lot of friends now in their 50s that they wake up and they're not in the place they wanted to be. And that's emblematic of the drift. They were busy. They were taking their kids to the soccer practices. Seemed like they're doing the things other people were doing. But for whatever reason, maybe they weren't investing in the things that pay off long-term. And for whatever reason, different aspects aren't what they wanted. Driven, to your point, that's where you can be incredibly successful in one area of life, but at the detriment of other areas. And we know tons of people that have, over-indexed to work at the detriment of family. But other things, like I know a lot of athletes in my circles where they over-index to a certain sport and that harms family, or even over-indexing family to harm work. Like there's a million, you can just dial things in different ways. But design is the last piece. And that's where Becky and I, as we think about what we talk about, I'll bet we talk about either relationships or how we want to design our life more than anything else. Like there's very actually little talk about what do you want to eat tonight? It's all about, like, we're always talking about long-term stuff. Like, who do we want to get back in touch with? Who do we miss? Who are the relationships we want to focus on in one domain? And then the other domain is, what do we want to do over the next year? What things do we want to prioritize? We didn't use those driven design framework, but we've always talked about what do we want our life to look like super long-term and in the next interval. I think always talking about those kind of things has helped us like be aligned. Notice when we're out of sync, which happens. I've done some real bonehead moves over the years and that I regret. And, like doing too much work or sports at the detriment of our relationship or whatever. But it's the idea of always talking about those things that it doesn't let you get too far astray, at least.
I love that framework. It puts words to a thing, to your point, that I think many of us have experienced. Maybe each of us personally has experienced each of those modes. And if we haven't, it kind of creates this ideal of not what the output of the design process is, but the consciousness with which you design. What are my trade-offs going to be? And am I embracing those actively, or is it happening to me? The drift thing, or am I being kind of like driven by some inner unhealth, demon, wound, whatever drives us at times to just go and try and fill something that can't be filled with the ways that we're trying to.
And if I can add just one more step farther down the road, is when this really got clear to me was 2008 in the financial crisis, that our business really took a huge hit. I wrote down what I wanted life to look like 10 years later in 2018. And then I pulled it back to 3 years later, 2011. Just that was sort of like the 2011 was on the path to 2018. And I wrote it was just like a paragraph or two. It wasn't that much, but I tried to hit 4 big areas of life: economics, what I wanted my day-to-day life to look like, what kind of stuff I would want to be doing, what I wanted our family relationships to look like, and then just high-level ideas on sort of the overarching way life was balanced, if you will, integrated design. It's bizarre, Barrett. Like, I wrote that down, and probably for a couple of months, I would look at it like once a week. And somehow, is it like in a moleskin notebook? I moved to another one. It got lost a little bit. Let's see. That would have been, I think it was 2016 or 2017. I went back and looked, and we had like massively exceeded all those things. But when I wrote it down, like, they were beyond aspirational. Like, I actually didn't know a single person that had all those things in life. I didn't have a model. And I can remember actually pulling my pencil out and almost erasing some of the aspects of that, because I thought, oh God, it just seems like I don't know if I can even get that. I don't even know anybody that's done these things in this integrated way. But we not only got there faster than 10 years, but far exceeded them in like 8 or 9. My point with that is, I think it's, when I talked before, I was talking about how Becky and I talk about this all the time. I think that's really important. I also think it's really important to write it down. Like, that's where clarity really comes, is where you're really fiddling over every word. And I don't think it has to be some real complicated format. It's just like, think of the areas in your life and write down what you want them to look like at some aspirational date in the future, revisit it from time to time. And it's amazing what that'll do.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of different forms of this. And I know you're a big fan of neuroscience and kind of referencing research and a lot of the work that you do. I understand it to be true, and someone listening can fact check me, that writing things down physically with a pen and paper, pencil and paper, has a different impact on our brain than typing it, than thinking it, than talking it. And I've had this experience too, where I've got this folder of I keep like all my old goals that I might have written down or printed in one folder.
Yeah, me too.
Occasionally I'll flip back through it. A friend named Joel Runyon had this concept of an impossible list at one point that he was kind of promoting as a way to talk about the work that he does. And it's just like stuff in every area of your life that you might want to do someday. Hike the Appalachian Trail, squat 300 pounds, whatever, just things that are like, I would love that to come true. And I go back and look at these lists and it's amazing. It's like, wow, I've been crossing stuff off. I haven't even looked at this thing in a decade,
Right.
And it's just something about the intentionality of putting it on paper, looking at it, even for a period of time, embeds it up here in the brain in a way that if you were just kind of said it in a passing conversation, it's not the same. One of the big elements of your marriage and your family life is your home. And I've been to your home. It's beautiful. Lots of people have been to your home, actually. It's kind of a gathering place for friends and community. And you were in pursuit of this home for a long time, which might sound like a weird thing for a listener to hear. And I wonder if you might just tell the story of the pursuit of your home and the vision you had that is probably kind of part of this design of your life and how that came to be.
Yeah. Well, it's one of the things Becky and I talk about is we don't really want to have second or third homes. I know a lot of people do. I think it's great, but we felt like we wanted one place that had everything. And something that we really like are national parks and state parks. We visit them all the time. We love outdoors. My wife loves equestrian activities. She does 25, 50, and 100-mile horse races, as you know, called endurance racing. We were just at a race last weekend when I was her crew for her and my younger daughter. They did a 25-mile race. They got 15th out of like 60 or 70 people. They just bonded as they went through it. It was really cool. And she has a nonprofit, as you know, that helps kids with disabilities through equine therapy. So as we started to list out all the things we like, and we like historic homes, we like architecture. So anyway, we want everything in one place, right? Why wouldn't you want all that in one place? But Bear, you want to live in town in Atlanta. We don't want to be able to live way out of town. That's crazy. Like we want to be able to drive 5 minutes and go to great
horse farm in Atlanta.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer, right? Wouldn't you want that? Well, our older daughter was like, I think she was in pre-first. So she's 25 years old now. So say this is like 19 years ago, something like that, 19, 20 years ago. Becky dropped her off at school and was walking with another mom that had a kid in her grade. And they're walking around the neighborhood and just right there, like 50 feet that way, they're walking past the house I'm in. And a friend of Becky says, hey man, you'll never believe what's back there. You can't see it from the road. It's stealthy, which we love. So there's a horse pasture back there. And Becky's like, no, it can't be, So they peek around the edge, they see it. Well, what does Becky do? She drives by that afternoon and knocks on the door and says, hey, I heard there's a horse pasture back there. Can I check it out? There was like a maid and a full-time groundskeeper. And they're like, yeah, come on in. We'll give you the house. The owners were not there. And so they walk her around the house and they point out every aspect. There's 12 acres here, right in the middle of Buckhead in Atlanta. And I get home from work that night and Becky's like, I know what we need to buy. I think she's talking about, I don't know, an Instapot or whatever there was 20 years ago. That was like the next thing. And she talks about this house. We can't afford that. That ended up becoming part of the design. Like we wanted not just a house, we wanted this house. It is a white elephant. There's maybe a handful of other properties in Buckhead that have that much land, but they're really massive houses. They're not old and cool in the way I would describe it. They're not a 1938 house like that's built like a New England farmhouse. And I just love our place. So anyway, we started on a journey. Design. It's like we talked about it all the time. How can we get there? We couldn't afford it. Owners didn't want to sell. All that wasn't on the market. All that stuff. Over time, I established a relationship with the prior owners. They did not want to sell. I'll skip over the story. It would take like an hour. But the ending is after I met with him 3 or 4 or 5 times, the prior owner agreed to just receive an offer of 3 ways we might be able to purchase the house from him at some point in the future. Like There was like a right of first refusal. There was like a let's set up terms for 5 years from now and have a contract. And then there was like a let's just buy it right now. And when he read every detail of that. We're at breakfast and I was just hoping he'd choose something. And he said, I think maybe I'd entertain the buy it right now auction. I just almost fell out of my chair at the OK Cafe, where I'm sure you've been.
Mm-hmm.
And I know exactly the booth they're in, and I can visualize which direction I was sitting in the booth and everything, because I think a small part of me almost just died and went to heaven. Anyway, it took another year or so to finalize the transaction, but we got it done through a massive amount of hard work of growing the business, saving money, and then also like orchestrating the deal. We now are in our dream property, and like she's out there right now. I can see her getting out of a pickup truck and she's loading hay. Like or unloading hay. It's like great.
Yeah.
Everything in one place. I love it.
It's amazing. It's an amazing property. And in so many ways, it's emblematic of everything that you teach. The way that you built that relationship, the way that you played the long game, that you were just kind of in it for when the owner was ready and made the investments in the relationship and the offer to him that would made it possible. And now you have this beautiful home with the horse pasture. Becky gets to do her equine therapy out in the backyard. As a callback to where we began this whole conversation, you have a miniature donkey back there who I've gotten to meet.
Louis Hamilton, your favorite.
Louis Hamilton, the man.
The pictures of you in your pristine white sneakers hugging a donkey is just one of my favorite scenes of all time.
It's great. Something that listeners may not know is I have kind of like these two modes. And so I have like city mode Barrett, and then I have nature Barrett. And they both exist within me. And so if you've ever seen the artwork for the show, a lot of people are like, what in the hell is going on with this artwork?
Yeah.
And the story of the artwork is that I was looking through, I basically I stood 6 feet back from my desk and I just scrolled through, I took my mouse with me and I scrolled through all of the top charts in all of Apple for podcasts. And I just noted ones that stood out. And I made a kind of folder of, here's everything that I think is good artwork that stands out. Do I think that people browse through podcast directories to find a new podcast? Mostly not. However, I also think art is emblematic of a show.
Yep.
And so I went through those and I said, okay, what are these things that stand out, have in common? And what I noticed was in the business category, every single show looks almost the exact same. Almost the exact same. And I thought, okay, I am doing a thing at a time in the progression of the internet that is harder than ever because there's more competition than ever, which is an interview-based podcast. I am stereotypical of the profile of person who thinks that they should start a podcast at this point. And I need ways to stand out. There's got to be ways to stand out here. And we can argue over whether it's too much, but the idea was what is the most eccentric but true way that I could represent myself through the show art? And I started thinking, okay, well, I've got photos of bears all over my house. One meaning of Barrett in a certain language is the spirit of the bear. I've always been drawn to that. There's some research that says we like things that sound like our names. And so there's a bear. The bear has a Braves hat on. I grew up in Atlanta. The bear has Jordan 1s on. I love sneakers, cuff jeans, a little bit of the hipster Portlander look. And the bear is outside of a cabin type setting in nature. And so it looks like a city bear, but clearly a bear is meant to be outside. And so it's outside in nature and it's just emblematic of me. And so when people ask me, it's what's the deal with the show art? It's well, there's how much time do you have,
Yeah, it's great. Well, it's what's neat is it's not only unique and beautiful, but it just, you're right. There's it's almost like there's 23 things in there that you can find that are Barrett Brooks. And you just got to know. And if you know, it's one of those things. It's really cool.
It's a bet on, it doesn't actually matter what your logo or your art is because it gets infused with meaning over time. So we'll see if that's actually true in this case. But anyways, side quest there. I want to come back to you, Mo. One of the things that I also admire about you and has become a theme of this show unexpectedly is parenting and the importance of investing in our children and those relationships over time and the degree to which, as much as we might talk about the impacts we make through our work, the end of the day, our children are really the people who get impacted most by us. And you have two wonderful daughters who as I see it from the outside looking in, and I know relationships are always more complex when you live them versus when you watch them. They love you dearly and they feel supported by you, and they seem to be wonderful, well-developed, well-adjusted grown-ups. And I just wonder what you've learned about supporting your kids as they grow up to claim their own adulthood and identities and develop into independent people over time, and just how that's shaped you as a person as you've continued to support them.
Wow, that's a big one. I'm very, very proud of both girls. At the same time, I also am not sure how much of this was DNA versus like stuff that Becky and I did. So I can only say the things that I like as I look back now. I've got both are out of college, both graduated with 3.95s and higher at their universities, and both are like on a path where they're doing the things that are meaningful to them. They're still figuring that out, and like both put way too much pressure on themselves, but they're both, I feel really, 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 really good about where they're at and where they're headed, without a doubt. We had a book launch party where we had our big first ever conference I was mentioning to you last week. We had the conference, and then we added a couple hundred more people for the book launch party itself. So there's several hundred people in the crowd. And I gave a talk on the power of books. And I finished and I said, wow, thanks for coming. This is great. Here's what I talked about the book and, all that. It was the end of my speech, and I'm stepping up the stage, and I hear Josie's voice, our younger daughter. And she said, hey, wait, there's one more thing. There's one more thing. She had a mic over here. I didn't even know it. Now, both girls are petrified of being in front of people. They both stood up on the stage, and they had notes on their phones, and they sort of went back and forth. They basically said, hey, Mo is the businessman. We want to let you know what a great dad he was. And Baird, I didn't know this was going to happen. I had no idea. And they said the kindest, nicest things about me. And then Josie had gone back in every year for 20 years in a row. I just quit last year because they're both on their own now. But every year for 20 years, I did a recap movie of the family exploits. She went back to 20 years. It was like 30 some hours of the best, the Bunnell movie of each year for 20 years. The 2012 Bunnell movie, the 2013 Bunnell movie, all these years. And she found 2 minutes of actually hilarious, rapid fire flash cuts of the funniest things we had ever done. And they said, they said these really nice things. And then they said, we want to show you this spot of or this summary of all the Bunnell movies over 20 years. And for 2 minutes, I sat there holding their hands, and I don't cry that much, Barry. You got me to tear up on this call. Now I'm talking about me cry. I've cried just a couple times this year. They're both with you now. But anyway, I'm holding both their hands, and there's this big tears just rolling down as I'm watching them grow up over 2 minutes and 30 seconds in front of hundreds of people after they got up on stage with something I know they're terrified of and wanted to do this. It was crazy. So that's the outcome. Let's talk about some of the things. Some of the things that I'm really, really proud of that we emphasized were positive rituals. One of those was every year we would do the Bunnell movie. And that was mostly me doing the editing. One year, actually, Josie did the whole thing. And generally speaking, on New Year's Day night was the deadline where I would debut it to us. And we'd call it puppy pile. We'd puppy pile on the couch. And in the early years, you'd show it on a computer, but in later years, you can airplay it to the big screen and the TV. And we would watch the whole year unfold. When the girls were younger, they would actually say you'd be on a road trip, and you'd say, hey, what movie? It's a 10-hour road trip somewhere. You're like, hey, what movie do we watch? And as often as Disney movies were chosen, certain years of the Bunnell movies were chosen. So they would over and over watch themselves grow up in a year at a time. It's incredible. And so they would see their own progress in the funny moments, and the time that the dog chased the cat into the hole, or just the times we did Hot Wheels, and the cat would jump out of the bushes and attack a Hot Wheel car going down a hill, just crazy funny things. They would watch those. So it's one thing was the Bunnell movie I really liked. The other thing is state parks and national parks. Every spring for years after Mayhem, when the kids' school would be nuts in May. May's crazy. It's more busy than the holidays. All the extra recitals and sports tournaments, all that. Every year, and this was one of Becky's ideas, we'd always go to this Vogel State Park in North Georgia, oldest state park in Georgia, and we just decompress for a week. No phones, no Wi-Fi. Now they have Wi-Fi. They didn't back then. That was one of the smartest things we ever did. I have memories of Josie learning how to unicycle, at Vogel State Park. Birthdays were huge. That I think everybody does that. Oh, camping. Every summer we'd go camping with Becky's brother and his family. It was this big thing. In the spring, we'd pick the date. When's the summer camping trip? We backpack about 3 miles into the Cuda Wilderness, stay 3 days, 2 nights. We have memories from that. So I think picking annual rituals, monthly rituals, I think is just really, really, really important. One more, when the girls were really young, we'd do something called Fantastic Friday, where we'd go to Waffle House before school on a Friday. And for Josie, it would be like Thursday. That was a cool thing. Just sitting there talking about whatever they're doing at school every Friday morning on the way. We'd leave a little early and have waffles. So I don't know. I think figuring out, again, back to design, what are the inputs that you can do over and over again that yank you out of work and going on a run, all the other pressures that pull you away. Just say, no, it's Fantastic Friday. I'm sorry, I can't do breakfast, a work colleague on Fridays because I go out with my daughter. Having something that focuses you back on the things that are important to you, the inputs, and ritualizes them and pushes the other stuff aside for that 1 hour or that 1 week or whatever it is over and over and over again. I think it's a really powerful way to build relationships and focus on the right things. Is that where you wanted to go? That felt
I love
like
that.
it was way
That's
too
wonderful.
long.
No, that was awesome. I love this stuff. So I love hearing it. My wife said that, one of the parenting / PhD type people on Instagram was talking about the value of having photos of your children around the home, photos of the family around the home.
Agreed.
And that it builds a stronger sense of identity and self-confidence when they see themselves reflected. And that was coming to mind for me as you were talking about this annual movie, that there is this sense of solidifying the core memories of life over time and solidifying the sense of identity and the forces that have shaped you, and being able to go back and see that is such a gift. It's a thing that I know for me, at least, I've had to try so hard to get stories out of my parents and to try and understand what was I like as a kid and what was going on at this point in life. And because you don't remember all of it, right, as an adult. And at least for me, and I've seen this happen with a lot of both clients and friends, I think you go through this period in maybe mid 20s to mid 30s, somewhere in that time frame for most people, where you reorient your entire sense of self and identity around who am I really? Not just who was I socially to my friends growing up and all of that, but as I begin the rest of my adult life, who am I going to be? And how does that relate to who I've been up to now? I'm really thankful for that for your girls. That's so awesome that they'll be able to look back on those things and see it, on video. So thanks for sharing.
Well, I'll go just a touch further. Another move that's similar to that annual movie move is our mutual friend, Tiago Forte. He does a annual summary of photographs. He forces himself to pick the top 100 photographs of the year and then creates a printed book. Well, now they have all those that they all can flip through. I think that's a neat way to do it. The other thing, you might like this. Have you ever heard of the book? I think it's called Secrets of Happy Families.
No.
It's fantastic. It's a research-based, evidence-based approach to the top X many things that families do that are important to create happy and strong families. One of those was rituals. Now remember, I'd been doing some of it, but I read that chapter of the book and I thought, oh man, I want to do it more. Another thing, and this can sound cheesy, but it was actually really fun, is to create a family mission statement. And Covey writes about this, and he has a book called 7 Habits of Happy Families. I like The Secrets of Happy Families a little better. Both books are good, but this idea of a family mission statement's in both. What we did is, since there's 4 of us, we created 4 values. And then we wrote about, defined each one of those. And we made it spelled FUN exclamation point, one for each of it. And then we had an 8x8 little frame, and we each painted one of the letters and the exclamation point. And the F was is it called a treble clef? That's the beginning of a musical. Yeah. So the F was like that. The U is a horseshoe for horses, which more broadly emphasize animals. We've got a donkey, 4 horses, a dog, 2 cats, and a bird. There's animals there. It's a zoo. But we love animals. The girls still love animals. That N, we made it look like a tent with a tree next to it. It's a little wonky, but you can see the N in there. And that was for nature and things that. Again, we all chose this together. And then the exclamation point was for action. We do stuff. We're on the move. That was the one I painted. So it has has 4 exclamation points stacked on top of each other. So to symbolize all 4 of us. Anyway, we chose the words. Then we chose like the symbol. Then each person painted theirs, and they're up on the wall right when you walk in the front door. Nobody knows what it means but us. But I walk by it like 50 times a day, and I glance up and I'm like, yeah, fun. Yeah, let's have some fun. So anyway, that was sort of a cool thing that the girls remember. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I'm adding that to my reading list, The Secrets of Happy Families.
It's really good. Yeah.
So much richness in these conversations. And these are the things, to the point that your girls made at the book launch event. Typically people get celebrated at their death, at their birth, and maybe at their wedding.
Yeah.
And otherwise, mostly we never get all of our favorite people in one place. It's so rare.
Yeah.
And so what a beautiful gift at the age of 57 with so much life ahead to get that kind of gift from so many people who care for you and love you and are celebrating some of the important work that you've done in this new book.
Yeah.
And to use that for that opportunity is just amazing. It gives me chills.
Yeah. I slept well that night.
I bet.
It was just so overwhelming to feel that support. And you can't do it online. Like the actual book launch day was like 3 weeks before, and I just was flooded with LinkedIn messages and texts and phone calls and all that. It was great. It felt great. Man, it was not the same as being in that room, especially given what Gabby and Josie surprised me with.
Yeah.
So yeah, 100%.
And you've got some good science on this, on the power of face-to-face that we'll get to here in a little while. Before we get there, I want to talk about two more things, and then we'll transition really to talking about so much of the richness and value of the knowledge base that you built up that you professionally share with people. The first one is on friendships and community. It may not be surprising to people if they've read your work that you are very relationship driven, even in your personal life.
Yep.
And when I view you from the outside looking in, you have this incredible professional network. I always say two things about you when I tell people that they should meet you if they're going to be in Atlanta or they want to go to sales training or whatever. I say two things you got to know about Mo. He runs the best sales training in the world if you care about the relationships with the people that you're selling to. And two is he's probably the most connected man in Atlanta, quietly, but probably the most, if not one of the most connected people in Atlanta. And you just have this incredible network of professional connections. But you also have an incredible network of friends and people that you really take time to invest in, like me. I don't run a big consultancy or law firm or anything like that, but I feel very connected to you and very close. And we've had a couple of shared experiences that have helped make that true. We go on a retreat most summers out in Breckenridge. You've started hosting an event called Mashup at your house. And I wonder if you just might talk for a moment about the role that community and friendships have played in your life. And maybe if you want to, specifically how Breckenridge and Mashup have kind of complemented what is a very kind of classic big business, important, like big building type business life that you've built with these friendships that are more kind of creators, personal level, things like that.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. Well, for quick background, I grew up an only child in a town of 80 people in an alcoholic family with no people my age that I could get to via bike.
So if I remember right too, you were like me and you hit puberty extremely late. So you were also tiny. I had that. I was 8 or something going into high school. It was horrible.
Yeah, it's funny. That's how I opened the conference speech is like, I mentioned the things I just mentioned. I said, and my mom gave me this tub. They just downsized to sort of a quasi-assisted living community. And so she was downsized to things. She gave me this tub this summer and had just a bunch of things she had saved about me for my life. And I thought I had all of it, but I had different things than she had. So one of the things she had was my freshman basketball roster. I know you play hoops too. Yeah, I weighed 89 pounds in freshman year. The next closest was like 140. Andy, our top player, we won the county tournament. There's only 3 high schools in the county, so we should win. We're the county seat, 4,000 people in the county seat town. You're miles away from where I live. But anyway, our top player weighed 178, which was exactly double my size. So I remember going up for a rebound against Andy one time, and I just, like you would think 2 objects would collide and both bounce off. I hit him and fell on the floor and he didn't move. It was so ridiculous. He just laughed at me and I laughed back up and he helped me up. Like the whole thing was a scene. I was like, wow. Anyway, yeah. So when you combine all those headwinds I had just around living where I was at and my community and all that, with the fact that even when I was at school, I didn't feel like I fit in. I was like a 4th grader with 9th graders, So if I play that forward, what I didn't realize at the time is I really wanted to feel a sense of belonging. I wanted to belong to something. And I never felt like I did until college and joined a fraternity, and actually absolutely loved that experience, became fraternity president, and it was awesome. Basically, because of those roots, I've been spending almost the rest of my life to a ridiculous level trying to build community, either be a part of one and be an active member or put one together. So back to your question, when I think of with that as background, when our mutual friend Sean invited me to Breckenridge, that was super cool because I already had a pretty strong network with our clients, but I did not have a strong network of other business owners, especially ones that didn't have things roughly similar in my, like I knew people that were sales comp consultants or design people that were like in my ecosystem, but I didn't know creators like, given your backgrounds, and people that had email lists and cohorts and all the stuff that a lot of your audience does. I didn't know anybody who did that. I wasn't an author yet, so I didn't have author friends. So anyway, being a part of Breckenridge, which is, for the audience sake, more of like an 8 to 10 person, really deep, like you're there for 3 or 4 days, but you do that once a year, and people like me and you that are part of that, you live a lot of life together because you talk about what you're worried about, what you're focused on, where you're trying to take things. And it is a very intense experience. With Mashup, Sean and I decided, gosh, that's really cool, but it can only get as big as so many people because you want to have one thread of conversation go through the several days you're there. 8 people, maybe 10, but you're not going to have 20. And we thought, well, what if we had a shorter event with more people? And it was a little more just purely focused on how can we set this up where the maximum number of people can help the maximum number of people. So we found that number's around 40 or 50, where over a day and a half, you can actually leave and talk to every person or almost every person and find a meaningful way to connect and help them. And we've developed, as you know, a bunch of mechanisms to help that happen, like a survey ahead of time that asks, what's your superpower? How can you help? And what do you want to be focused on next in your business or life? Where do you need help? And actually sending that out ahead of time with everybody's information, incredibly valuable, because then when everybody gets to the event, Mashup, the mastermind of awesome, superhuman, unreal people, for those that want to know, when people get to Mashup, there's not this usual, hi, Barrett, my name's Mo. What do you do? Well, everybody already knows who they want to meet, what they do. They make a beeline. I think I can help you with YouTube videos. I'm really good at it. I got 1 million followers. Not me, but say somebody else, Josh, that's there. We have 1,027 followers, though. I looked this morning, but we just stood up our channel. But anyway, what's neat about having events that especially when those that you can help control a little bit, I think there's a reason for smaller group, deeper events. I think there's a reason for larger group, shorter events. And I think having a very design intent for each one, and either joining them, or if you can't join them, build them. I think that's the coolest way to make it, is choose who you want there and create a compelling reason to go. And those two are just, gosh, if I look at the amount of business growth we've gotten over the last, since I met you at Breckenridge, it's phenomenal. And I would say Breckenridge and Mashup are two of the most important things that I do every year.
Yeah, I love that. I think I learned that lesson very early on too. I realized at some point that belonging was a massive driver for me.
Woo.
I was also a fraternity president in college and had that experience. So I didn't
realize
we had
know
that. Point of
That's super cool. Yeah.
Mixed bag at times, but overall glad I did it. There's kind of like 2 corollaries here. One is, if you aren't having the kind of community that you want, starting it is such an incredible kind of like, it's always your move type thing, to quote something from the book, right? Which again, I'm increasingly foreshadowing. If you don't have it, create it. Go make it. A couple things I've done in the last couple of years, or I started a breakfast club for fellow entrepreneurs here in Portland. I just downloaded like all the contact information of all the dads at the preschool my kid goes to, and was like, I just want to get to know more of these guys. And I started a text thread. It's funny because partners of the dads were people who came up to me. It wasn't as much the dads, which is a very kind of dad dynamic, but mostly their wives came up and were like, I had been telling them that someone should do that for like 6 months, and finally someone did it. And I just thought it was so funny because everyone's waiting around. Yeah. And this leads to the second corollary, which is everyone wants to be invited to something awesome.
Yes.
Everyone would love an invite to a thing that's like, that sounds amazing. Why didn't I think of that? And you feel awesome inside when it's like, I got an invite to Mashup. I can't wait to go.
Yeah.
And so it's both, you can both be the driver of it, and people that get invited are like, wow, I didn't think of that. I wish I had, but now I'd love to be there, And that's what I love about you. It's what I love about Sean Blanc, who is the host of the Breckenridge retreat.
Sean's amazing.
So anyways, it was just interesting to hear kind of how that's impacted you.
Well, now I'll add a third real quickly, is like when you're the person that organizes the event to a level that's shouldn't even be done, people look up to you. You're the person that knows everybody. When they walk in that door and they don't know anybody, you're the first person, like, hey, Barrett, how you doing? You're safe. And basically what it does is it elevates your status in that community. And then overall to a level that honestly doesn't even make sense. At least that's how I receive it. Not that worthy, but generally speaking in life, you want to be the person that people call when they don't know who to call. And one of the ways that you can do that is when you are a part of, and especially when you build communities. And it's a massive value add to when people reach out to me and say, hey, I'm struggling with this. Do you know somebody? And I usually know somebody. And if I don't, I hunt them down. I find somebody who can help them. And I think that's one of these 1 + 1 = 3. I know it's cliche, but it's one of these things where you can add a massive value in your network. And well, I'll close with this. A friend of mine, Max, said this at a conference I spoke at a couple weeks ago. He said, without community, we're a commodity. And I just thought that was, not only does it use alliteration, but I just thought that was really profound. Like that was like, whoa, you just like in a few words summarized this thing I believe in, and I didn't know how to articulate it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's fascinating. It seems to be true to me that anytime you're the organizer as well, not only do people look to you as kind of like being in this elevated place and you're kind of the person they go to, I find that they also attribute all of the value and connections they get from the thing to you.
Yeah, good point. Yes. Keep going.
It's just fascinating. It's like, if 50 people come to Mashup and that results in whatever the, equation is on that, you would know, you're the actuary, hundreds and hundreds of connections individually. Whatever value gets created by that, all of them think, oh, that was because Mo hosted Mashup. And so it's this thing that they attribute to having the relationship to you, even though you didn't necessarily say, Barrett, you and Sean need to talk right now, although you do that a lot as well. And it's just a fascinating way to really multiply the value and the impact you can have by being the organizer.
Yeah, you're right. And then you can incorporate design elements that amplify that. So like at the Give to Grow live conference last week, one of the things we did is not just have name tags, but we had a component of the name tag at the bottom below the name and the company that said, where can I help? Where do I need help? Want help, can help is how we got it down to 2 words each. And then we had decoded, our team did this, it wasn't me, but they found the top 10 things in our content that people might choose, and they had color coding on those. So different dots you could stick there. Well, what's neat about that is, you're right. I think everybody attributed all that helpfulness to me, but I didn't do that. They were actually out there looking for people with blue dots on the left because they could help them in that thing, generate more leads, get past the 5 lies. I know we'll talk about that in a little bit, create demand, whatever it was. I can tell by the survey responses, and I can tell by these heartfelt long emails I'm getting about how much people got out of the event. Well, part of it was putting on the event, sure, but part of it was designing the event where it wasn't what can I extract? It wasn't like networking in the cheesy way. It was actually the opposite. We actually had design elements for everything from name tags to specific sessions where people are actively focused on helping each other. And it just it unlocked all the value. I've never seen a conference like this where nobody was on their phones. Nobody was in the hallway pacing on a phone. People didn't take phone calls. They weren't on calls where they were in the sessions. Everybody was dialed in. They felt welcome. They felt warm, and they were learning and helping. I mean, what's better than that?
That's so cool.
Yep.
I love that. Well, to tee us up for the second half of our conversation, I want to talk a little bit about you as an author, and then we'll take a break and I'll kind of preface where we're going to go from there. But you have worked for decades now to become world-class at your craft. And you share a lot of the origin story of moving into business development, teaching it in the book, at the very beginning of the book. The book is called Give to Grow, by the way. I don't know if I've said it in the conversation, although I did in the intro. And I wonder at what point you realized, okay, you may not still admit it because you're a very humble person, but at what point did you realize, okay, I've become world-class, but more people need to know about this work, even than I can reach in my training. I should write a book. So that's the first piece here. And then the second piece is I want to know about the difference between writing and making the first book and the second one. But let's just start with the first one, which is, when did you know I got to write a book about this stuff?
Well, it's fun because it ties back to some stuff we've talked about. It was when I took Sean Blanc's focus course. Now he's got like Focus Like a Boss and cohort stuff and all kinds of stuff. But back in the day, there was an async course Sean developed called the Focus Course. I think it still exists, but now it's usually facilitator-led and cohort-driven and live events and all kinds of stuff around the brand. But I took that course and I realized that it's about focusing, as you might expect. Somewhere in the middle, and especially at the end, I realized I've been thinking about writing a book for years. I've been making every excuse possible to not write it. It's not the right time. I don't have time.
I'm busy.
I mean, a little busy, you travel up. Whatever. Like, honestly, it was like, yeah, I'm busy. I can't do that. Whatever. I got to the end of the focus course and I was actually angry. I was pissed off. I was like, I actually didn't exit it happy. I exited disappointed with myself. But man, was that a good like low point in this hero's journey, because I basically built a plan to say, come hell or high water, every week, I'm going to make progress on this book. You know, at first you're writing a book proposal and you're mapping it out and all this other stuff. You're not actually writing the book when it's nonfiction. But I just started saying, if it's 3 hours next week or 5 or 2 or half an hour, or whatever, I'm going to make progress every week. And you know what? It actually worked. And within I think it was like 6 months, we had a really crappy book proposal. Like, it was horrible. I thought it was good because I followed the advice in a book called How to Write a Nonfiction Book Proposal, but it was terrible. And I sent it to an agent, the agent I really wanted, Lisa DeMona. She said, this is good, but it's not going to get an A+ deal, and I can only do A+ deals. I begged her for a phone call. She gave me feedback. She told me what to tweak. I hired an expert to help me, Dave Moldauer, you know. Anyway, then we cranked out a good book proposal. It took another 6 months. But Lisa read that, and in like 1 hour, she said, I'm in. Let's do this. Once you get an A-list agent, you get an A-list deal. Everything rocked from there. But if I go back to that pivot point, that point of leverage, if you will, it was me realizing that I was to blame. Before I finished the focus course, the world was to blame. The world isn't giving me time. The world is making it too busy. The world is getting travel in the way. That was all crap. I was in the way, maybe out of fear, not knowing what to do, whatever it was. It was when I started acting and making incremental progress that I started to feel good again. And the result was awesome.
Yeah. And that was the snowball system. I love that book.
Yep.
It was exceptionally useful. We did a whole book club on it with our sales team at ConvertKit when I was a COO there. It's been a really valuable tool. Also, when I hear you talk about these two books, Snowball System and Give to Grow, there is something different about the new one that feels more personal. It feels even more important to you. It feels like
it does.
This is actually what I meant to say in some ways, and maybe didn't know how to say it at the time, which is kind of how our work always is. It's like I go back and watch my TEDx talk from over 10 years ago now, and I think, okay, so I had a thesis there. That is not how I would say that today, though. And it's slightly embarrassing, right? It's like, okay, I had to give that talk to get to where I am today, but also let's maybe not have everyone watch that now. And so I wonder what that's like for you. Like, what's it been like to have that old book, The Snowball System, and still know that it provides value, but also now to have the new one? And what was it like to create that one?
Yeah, I feel like the new one's me. When I went on that Snowball System journey, if we just think back to that point at the end of the focus course, all the way through the finish of the manuscript, maybe, I don't think I was confident in that I was an author or that could be an author or whatever, if you want to call it imposter syndrome or whatever. So I really soaked in and did whatever the advisors around us said to do. 100%. You tell me to do it, I'm going to do it. Like, wind me up, point me in a direction, I'm going to do A+ work. But I didn't deviate off the path. I think you can summarize it really well with this. Josh Kaufman, our mutual friend, wrote Personal MBA.
Prior guest on the show as well.
Oh, yeah. Josh is awesome. Everybody, it's down in the show notes. Check it out. It was great. Because if he was on the show, it was great. I can tell you that. Yeah, he loves Snowball System too. Absolutely loved it. But he knows me. So he said one time, he just looked at me and he's like, man, I love Snowball System. I think it's the best of its kind, all that stuff. But it felt like when I read it, you were wearing a suit when you wrote it. And man, that sunk in. You're like, oh my God, it did feel like I was wearing a suit, right? Like I was almost trying to be too professional. While I love the content, it's sold really well. It's helped a lot of people. And I'm really still proud to point people to it. I wouldn't say it's a negative, right? Like it's been really great. At the same time, when I wrote Give to Grow, I wanted to rectify that. And I wanted to write Give to Grow like I talk, like I think. I wanted to make it 100% me. And I think it's much more breezy in nature when you read it. It even looks different. Snowball System looks like a normal business book. You read it, small font, lots of words on a page. And Give to Grow, I know you have this on YouTube, but for audio listeners, like I'm showing it, like it's just got big font. It's got fun design elements. If you flip through Give to Grow,
so much good stuff. Yeah.
Every page, there's something interesting on the page.
Worksheets and stuff, there's all kinds of great stuff in here. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like when you pick it up, the first thing I want them to think is, this is different. This doesn't look like a normal business book. And that, man, does that come through in the reviews on Amazon? We have every single review so far, 130 or so is a 5-star. Every one. We're only 3 weeks in.
So good.
Every one. And I think a bunch of reviews say, I usually don't read business books like this, but loved this one. And that's what I wanted.
I love that. Okay, so I'll say 2 things, then we're going to take a quick break and we'll come back and really get into it. You worked with our mutual friend, Todd Satterston, who is a fellow Portlander.
Yep, he's awesome.
Probably the most unique person in all of book publishing because of his model, which is that he only does 1 book a year.
Yep.
And he has been a partner to you on this. He's been kind of like the co-creator and helping you really bring out the most Mo book possible. That's also the most helpful book possible for the people that you serve. Well, I'll ask you a quick question on it maybe. What's it been like to have a partner on this one in that way? I know you had a lot of people supporting you on the first one, but this feels like a very, very different way to create a book. And I wonder what that experience has been like as an author, especially as the kind of person who's usually the helper in a relationship.
Yeah. Well, he's been unbelievable. So not only has this gone well, let me talk about the outcomes and the process. Like the outcomes, we'll have 3 times more books in the marketplace at the end of a month than Snowball System has ever sold in 6 years.
Wow.
Well, that's an outcome. We're top 10 in the week we launched. We are top 10 in business books since we launched. So we just didn't have a big week, like it's been sustained. It's truly making a difference because of the support and the guidance that Todd has given me. So that's the outcome. And like, we're just getting started. Like it is, the amount of cool things we're doing is to promote the book and get it out there. Things like this, like truly novel. And that's because he's got this, he just does 1 book a year and he just like dials in. The process was absolutely phenomenal. So not only did I enjoy working with him on creating the title, to step back, the way Todd does things is almost the opposite of what big publishing does. What big publishing does is you write a book proposal, you create the manuscript, you have some meetings to talk about the title. Once you get the manuscript done, then you write the subtitle. And then maybe 3 months before you launch, you start talking about marketing. Well, the way Todd does it, he said, you should flip that all the way around. We probably spend 50 hours choosing 3 words for this title, Give to Grow. I'm not joke. Like at one point, we're going to call it Your Next Move. At what really early stage, Todd suggested Mo Bunnell's Big Book of Business. Like, I think that's really funny to think of now. But anyway, he's got this database of like the 10,000 top business books ever sold that he can query. He could run analysis to figure out what titles actually translate to sales. And it's really simple titles. Think Good to Great, Atomic Habits. So there's 3 big things. Short words. It shows and conveys positive effect. So you know what you're going to get, and it's a positive change. Oh, there's a third one. I'll remember in a minute. Anyway, I'll speed up from here. You figure out the title and you dial that in. That took probably 50 hours. Then you get the subtitle. Then you write the book description, which is in his view, like the promise of the book. And then you write the book. Now, you might have an outline before you come up with the title because you want to know roughly what's in there. But you don't write that manuscript until you have the title, subtitle, and promise figured out. Then you do that in the first year, get the manuscript basically done. Then you'd have a whole year, not 3 months, you have a whole year to think about marketing. How are we going to get the word out? And it really took every bit of that year. Now that I've seen it done in this exceptional way. So anyway, I know I was probably too long-winded because you're looking to take a break, but
no, I love that. It's great.
everything was almost the opposite. And I thought it was really awesome, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. So I want to read the first 3 pages of the book that immediately establish it as something different, and then we'll take our break. You open the book, and the first page of text, if you're on YouTube, is just 5 words. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5 words, massive font. It says, "I wake up every morning," and you flip the page, and now we're in beautiful cover blue, "looking to help my friends succeed." And you flip the page again, and some just happen to be clients. And if that's not Mo Bunnell in 3 pages, I don't know what is. And immediately, you know, you're in for something different than whatever you thought you were going to get when you opened this book, or you bought this book, or you picked it up off the shelf. So I'm going to leave that cliffhanger as how we're going to take our break, and then we'll come right back.
I love it.
Hey, it's Barrett. You've reached about the midpoint of this conversation, and while we take a little break for station identification, as they say, I want to tell you about 2 things. First of all, I write a newsletter every Saturday for founders and creators who are leading teams and companies to make an impact through your work. It has 3 sections in it. The first one is a mini essay from me based on my executive coaching work with founders and creators about how to lead well. It has 3 long-form essays or links from around the web that will help spark new thoughts to help you lead better. And it has 1 quote from a meaningful book that I often find myself recommending to friends and clients. All the feedback I've gotten so far is that it hits exactly on the kinds of issues that founders, CEOs, and creators are facing every day in their work. So if that sounds appealing to you, make sure to go to my website at barrettbrooks.com, and you can subscribe right at the top of the homepage. That's BARRETTBROOKS.com. The second thing I want to tell you about is that my day job, I actually do have a day job, I'm not just a podcaster yet, is as an executive coach, as I just mentioned. I work with founders of Series A startups and later, and with creators who are doing at least $1 million as a solo founder and are now thinking about growing a team. The uniting commonality between the founders and the creators I work with is that you've reached a point in your business where you know you're going to make it. Actually, you're doing quite well. And now the question is, how much do you want to scale? And what are the leadership challenges that you're going to face along the way? This work is based on both my training as a coach and in my work as an operator in growing my old company ConvertKit from $3 to $30 million in annual revenue. If you're a founder or creator who might benefit from coaching, or if you know someone who's looking for a coach, I'd love for you to check out my site and my coaching page at barrettbrooks.com/coaching. You can learn everything about how I work as a coach and also fill out a form to have an exploratory conversation if that sounds interesting to you. All right, that's all I got for you right now. There's no sponsors for the show at the moment, so consider me your sponsor. Let's get back to the conversation for the second half. All right, we are back with Mo Bunnell, multi-time author, dad, husband, owner of a horse farm in the middle of Atlanta, as we now all know. And Mo, I thought it would be fun, hopefully instructive, and certainly selfishly valuable if we treat me like a guinea pig for the framework of Give to Grow. I think I have an ideal business for the way that you teach business development, the way you teach relationship building. I would say that I'm pretty good at it. I don't think I buy into many of the lies, although we'll talk about them and kind of check in on that, I imagine. And what I've learned, or what I think I've learned, is that I've really gotten into memoir reading in the past year or so. That was never a genre I had read anything in. And what I've learned from memoir is that through the specific of someone's life and experience, I take my own lessons from that. I make my own meaning of what they've experienced. And there's something that I've come to value in that even more than just the instruction of reading a business book that's a how-to or reading a guide or whatever. And so I thought we might take that approach, and it'll be a little bit different than every other interview you've done, which you've done many that people can get the kind of nitty-gritty of the book. So guide me through the framework of the book as it applies to my business, and we'll see what comes of it.
That sounds good. So am I taking the lead, or are you asking questions?
Are you open for it?
This is good.
Let's do it.
Okay. All right. Barrett Brooks, top tier coach, person who I've seen in a room completely change the direction of the entire conversation because you asked this question and everybody else is asking like 1 layer deep questions. And you're like, all of a sudden hey, I said this one question and it'll be like 18 layers deep and everybody's like, they just dropped their pencil. Like, how did you even sense that? So here's my first question. Is it okay if I share my screen?
Please.
At least for YouTube.
Yeah, for all the YouTube viewers, this will be an added benefit to go check this one out there.
Yeah, right on. We'll like verbally talk it through for the folks that can't watch. I've got an image on the screen. It's from the book. It's a table, and it has two columns. It says doing the work and winning the work. I'll describe this framework, Barrett, and I'm going to ask you a question.
Great.
To describe the framework, what we realized as we were writing Gift to Grow is that the activities that someone needs to win the next piece of business, relationship development, business development, whatever we want to call it. Some people call it sales. I usually use relationship or business development. The mindset and the moves that somebody needs to get great at winning the work aren't just different than the mindset and the moves that they use in doing the work. They're complete opposites. So this is super interesting and an unlock for almost every reader that I've talked to. What happens if you don't know this is you tend to port over your mindset and moves from doing the work to winning the work and expect the same things to work, and they don't work. It's one of these what got you here won't get you there kind of things. Mm-hmm. So is some examples, and then the question, when doing the work, clients always respond, hey, I need some information before your next coaching call next Thursday, the kind of stuff you do. But when you're winning the work, you're inviting someone to an event, you're sharing a thought piece, like they rarely respond. Emails should be long and offer a lot of clarity when you're doing the work. You might have a big intake form. You might want to look at somebody's P&L before the next call and they need to send it to you. So you might put everything in one place, relatively speaking, longer emails. Winning the work, they should be short and offer help. Our rule of thumb is 50 words or less when sending a winning the work or relationship-based email, because that's what fits on one Outlook screen on an iPhone. Mm-hmm. If they even tried to skim it, they'd read the whole thing and respond. That's how you'll dial up the response rate. Now, I won't read through this whole chart, but things like when doing the work, you win with the best answers. When you're winning the work, you win with the best questions. When you're doing the work, you want to go in with all kinds of recommendations, a big presentation, all the results, whatever. When you're winning the work, you want to go in with a blank page. And in the end of the day, we need to think about one word when doing the work. Everything we're doing is communicating certainty. We are going to get the change you want by the date you want through the coaching. When we're winning the work, we want the one word is possibility. We are talking about a future possibility for that business owner, that creator, whoever you're talking to, that is going to be something much better than what they have now. My point with this, and then the question is, to be great at winning more work, we need to quickly identify which mode am I in, what am I trying to do, and always remembering these aren't just different, they're exact opposites. So my question to you finally, after 72 minutes, is how do you think about this? Are you good at seeing the differences? Are you good at toggling between? Do you put the right amount of emphasis to both? Is it the right amount of time investment? So you can think about overall investment, flow through rate, speed, less friction, quickly moving. Like, how do you think about this?
Yeah, I definitely think of them as different. My work is unique, and we talked a little bit about this in the past, and that unlike when I was a consultant, or even if I'm like using my COO knowledge to help someone build similar systems or run a hiring process like we've talked about in the past, coaching is this very kind of open-ended engagement that starts with a problem and they might want to solve it. Many times we uncover, to your point earlier, many layers deeper than the problem they thought they had is something else entirely. Ooh. And it might take them 6 months to transform that problem. It might take them 12 months. It might take them 2 years. And a lot of times I don't know the answer, but I know the questions. And so what's interesting is there are some parallels here in terms of like the consultative method of working through winning the work and the coaching work. But I also understand the differences, like the activities I do when I'm trying to grow my client base or build long-term potential to grow my client base, and the activities I do to serve my clients are completely different. If they have any overlap, it's that sometimes clients spontaneously refer people to me. And I'm like, oh, that's nice. But I definitely can't count on it. If I'm counting on that for making sure my client roster stays full, I'm in trouble. So my system right now, Mo, the starting point is I have found that there is a very direct correlation between if I can get in rooms where I am giving workshops that teach some of the principles of what I do in coaching and then do mini coaching sessions, mini coaching sessions as a part of the workshop, people want to hire me immediately afterwards. And this demonstrates a lot of principles that you talk about.
We're going to get to it. Yep.
And so there's like a direct relationship. If I speak in the right rooms to the right audiences, that generates clients. And that's pretty much my whole system right now. If I speak quarterly, I'm pretty close to full. And so the key activity is, can I generate good speaking gigs? But I would really love it if I didn't have to get on planes every time I want to get clients. And so I know that there's other ways I could be going about this that are probably more reflective of what we were just talking about.
So follow up. I think this will be helpful to your audience. Most people judge success on if I'm pretty close to full.
Yep.
You actually want to be like 3 times, I'm picking up, whatever it is. You want to have like 3 times more people want you than can get you.
Yes.
So why is that? It's because you don't worry about you. If you have a wait list, so to speak, in other words, if the winning of the work activities have overwhelmed the doing of the work capabilities, that is where you want to be, because you can raise your rates. You can choose who you work with. It's almost counterintuitive that most people think you want to have an equilibrium between the amount of work you can do and the amount of work you have. But the problem with that is you too often slip down below.
Yes.
You want to actually be way above. So what I would tell people is like, pull the winning of the work lever until you get to that point, because otherwise you're just not in control. So how would you feel about where you're at right now?
I'm at equilibrium, I think. And so like at this point in the year, we're recording at the end of September, and this will probably come out around November 1st. I'm thinking, all right, I'm full through the end of the year. I'm where I want to be through the end of the year. So I need to be thinking about January.
Yep.
And if all my clients stay with me, I'm still full. If some of them say, you know what, I got what I came for, you did an exceptional job, and I actually feel great about where I'm at, I don't think I need this anymore. Well, now I need clients. And so I'm about at equilibrium. But as you said, I would love to have the problem of having 2-3x the demand for the spots that I have, because there's a lot of exceptional coaches in the world who have no idea how to fill their client roster. So in the worst case, I've got so much demand, I got to go hire an exceptional coach and say, hey, I can fill your time.
Or you could refer out if you don't want to build a business like that. Like it just puts you in control, where you get to work with a higher order, higher value, more higher power folks, and that lets you raise your rates as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as I understand it, when you were beginning to shape this book, Todd, your partner on this, from Bard Press is his business, if anyone's curious about looking him up, he asked you a question that was something like, what are the barriers people have to doing what you teach? That was what led you to then go and define these 5 lies that people tell themselves. Because prior to that, it's like, you realize that, well, I'm actually not sure. And you had your team start asking, and you codified this list of 5 lies that people tell themselves. And it's funny because I told you, I don't think I'm buying any of the lies for myself right now, but I bet I am, based on the story I just told you, which is that I'm only speaking quarterly and I'm not doing other activities. So let's walk through these and let's see. Let me actually check in with myself and see if I might actually be buying into these right now.
Yeah. Or you may just have the wrong goal. Like if we're going to go out on a run and we're like, hey, I'm going to run a 3.1 miles. I want to run a 5K. We usually don't get to the end of the 5K. I might run 3.1 more. Like our brains just don't work that way.
Yeah.
Whatever the goal is where we define the finish line. We're like, woo, I did it. So one thing that might be holding you back is the lies. Another thing is maybe because you're at equilibrium and that's what your goal was, you just stay there.
Yeah.
You're in the 5K, but really you should have been running a 10K.
Yeah.
So, but with that said, let's drop into lies. So you framed it up exactly. What we did is in hundreds of workshops, we asked people a simple question: name somebody you think of, somebody that you wished you would have reached out to at some point, but either didn't or you at least hesitated for a long time. We're like, okay, everybody's got it. Okay, now write in Zoom, or we flip charted if it was live. Tell me exactly why you hesitated. Well, we didn't know if there'd be 3 roadblocks or 23 that hold people back. Turns out there's 5 lies we tell in our heads, and they go in a specific order. So to even get to lie number 4, you got to topple over 1, 2, and 3.
Okay, great.
The 5 are, and we got them on the screen if you want to pop over to YouTube. Number 1, I can't do that. Number 2, I don't know what to do. 3, I might do it wrong. It's perfectionism. 4, I know what to do and I know how to do it. I'm too busy to do it though, Mo. I'm slammed. I don't even know where I'm going to go to the restroom next week. How could I do business development? Come on. And the 5th one is I'm going to look bad, which is fear of rejection is what underneath that. It's really when you get into the verbatims of each of these that they get really interesting. So I'll just rattle off some. So we'll go back to the first one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then what I want you to do, Barrett, is like, make some notes. Like, have you heard of this one recently? Because what these lies do is they sort of pop up. If we're smart about it, if we can see them, if we can smash them back down, we topple them over, then we move on. But over time, these ebb and flow. So even the best of the best, I hear these lies all the time. And the key is spot them, overcome them. So back to the first one, I can't do that. Here are the exact verbatims we heard from hundreds, thousands, or whatever of people. I hate the idea of selling. Like, I can't do it right out of the gate. I just like doing the work. I'm not good at reaching out. I'm not good at going to dinner. I'm an introvert. I'm not good at networking. I'm not good at chit chat. I can't do it like somebody else can do. There's a bunch of them. If we go to the second lie, here's the verbatims. I don't know what to do. Verbatims. I don't have anything meaningful to share that's new. I don't have an excuse to reach out. I'm not sure what they need. I might be bothering them. All lies. The third one, verbatims from I might do it wrong. I don't want to ask any dumb questions. I don't know the content well enough to talk about it. Maybe it's another part of our company that's different than my expertise. I'm not important enough to meet with them. Or the fourth one, the fourth lie, I'm too busy. Man, anybody can hear this one. I'm slammed with work. We don't have capacity. I've already hit my goals. Other people should be doing this. Like this one, you do not have to worry about hearing this one. Like, you're going to know it when you hear it. The other ones can be stealthy. And then our last one, I'm afraid I'm going to look bad. Again, this is more fear of rejection. I don't want to be a pest. I don't want to come across as salesy. I can't ask my friends for a business. There's a million of them that hang off of fear of rejection. They canceled on me recently. So back to you, Barrett. Have any of these appeared, or is yours a goal issue? Like, we really just need to pedal to the metal and speak more and do the things that we know work, or are these lies getting in the way?
So there's two that I think I wouldn't call them like totally nefarious actors, but they definitely pop up occasionally. So the first one is the difference between a referral or someone who's known me for a long time that reaches out and wants to work together versus someone I'm starting from scratch with. I do have part of that story in my head. It feels like it's based on data, but that could be a way of tricking myself. It's like people really have to know and trust me and have seen me in action for them to want to hire me. That might actually just be, that's a legitimate part of the process. You have to demonstrate to people what you do well. I have a story in my head as well that coaching is a generally looked down upon offering because of its like ubiquitousness in the world and how many people are doing it, how varied the offers are. So I've got a little bit of a story of like, people generally, when they hear that you're a coach, are like, oh, not hiring that person. And then lastly is like, I am busy, but I also embrace that I could create time, like kind of like you did with the first book. I know I could create time if I had a clearer set of activities. So I think it's probably more one of clarity and method and like adjusting the goal higher than it is of embracing the lies, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good. And so that rings true to me, knowing you too, by the way, where even when you're describing these things, you're like, hey, I know when I speak in front of people, I have a really good flow through rate. We're going to talk about that in a minute. So I think maybe on that one, what I would do if I were you is I would just really absorb those 5 lies, especially the verbatims, because it's that level that you can spot them easier when you actually see what other people said. And then just be on the lookout. Just be on the lookout.
Is that popping up somewhere? Is it holding me back? Yep.
Yeah. And then the book obviously shows like, here's how you solve for every one of those. So then what you do is you go back to the book and go, man, I am hearing the I'm too busy lie. What do I do? Oh yeah, I want to integrate business development with my work as opposed to thinking it's either or. Oh yeah, I'm actually in front of 8 clients next week. I could ask each of the 8. Well, one I can't, but these other 7, I could ask all 7 of them a simple question. Who do you know that would benefit from meeting me? And I could weave that into next week's calls. It only takes 30 seconds. And then I'll get more potential leads from that. Okay, I'm going to do that. So anyway, like it's lie, solution. So I think if you're on the lookout and you're spotting, since that's not a big issue, I don't think we need to spend more time on it. With other folks that we talk to, usually there's 1 or 2 of these that are raging, just raging.
And I hear this in clients all the time. It's like, I can't do that, or I don't want to look stupid. Like these are totally resonate from that angle.
Yep.
So, okay. So let's jump ahead to I know speaking works and I kind of know what works for getting in rooms. But let's assume I wanted to create I could stay home and do activity that helps drive clients as well. What type of engagement should we be thinking about? Or what are my options basically?
Yeah. So I'm going to show two things here. So actually I'll verbally talk about one and I'll show something. So the verbally talk about what is in the next section of the book, which you're leading to beautifully, is, okay, now I've got the lies out of the way. How can we construct and design a buy-in process that's fun for you, put your expertise on stage, and has like 90% success rates? So we're going to hang all of this off the idea of people hate to be sold to, but they love to buy. People want to hire us. They want to hire you. So instead of selling, when we think selling, it's just the wrong mental construct. It's being pushy. I'm focused on my solution, not what they need. So we want to have a little different structure. So there's 4 chapters in the book. I'll cover these verbally, and we're going to drop into one of them. The 4 chapters that are important around this are, number 1, focus on engagement. How can we engage in a really dynamic back and forth dialogue where preferably the client's talking 70, or the prospect is talking 70% of the time, we're talking about 30, especially in early stage conversations where we're hearing their priorities and their words. Thing 1. Thing 2, how can we display and actually activate falling in love with their problem? Again, questions, digging in, being really thought-provoking, and doing so in a way that at the end of that, we get to a point where we've asked every question. When we think we're done, we ask one more, and we try to get to a point where we can paraphrase back their priorities in their words. 3rd step, how can we give them a taste of the experience working with us? We want to transition as fast as possible from talking about what we do. Everybody sounds the same as an executive coach. Like you said, that's your fear. It's actually true. And there's a lot of people who aren't good. So you have to fight against that. So you could talk all day long about how you're different, but that is just not going to be the same as them experiencing it. So I think getting to a no charge first session where you're actually starting to solve things, but almost like how an architect might sketch out what a house looks like, but they're not.
I love that story in your book. Yes.
So good. But sketching things out is one thing. Actually doing it, creating the blueprints is what you need to get hired to do. So I think what you could do is like sketch out how you might help them over 6, 8, 12, 18 months or whatever, not actually doing it, but you start doing it. What's the first 1 or 2 calls like? And then the 4th step is always making a recommendation to each step to get to the next. So I think what we can do is drop right in to give them the experience of working with you. Does that sound good?
Okay, that sounds great. The one thing I'll say in the identifying the problem piece is, and you and I went back and forth on this a lot back when I started this business, I was not clear on who or what problems they had. And so it was really hard to ask for help from my friends because it was like, well, generally speaking, it's like one of these 3 types of people. And it's like, okay, well, what are you helping them with? And it's like, well, I don't know. They've got like challenges and stuff that they're dealing with. And so I do think that I've had to grow in my ability to articulate the problems that I'm helping with. And so that I can get into conversations with people who are in similar situations, if that makes sense. So like if I'm talking to you, Mo, if I say, okay, generally speaking, I now know who that I work with. It's creator founders doing about $1 million in revenue. Their challenge is, do I want to continue to scale this business and build a whole new set of skills around hiring, team building, culture building, basically transitioning from creator to CEO? Or actually, have I built a really beautiful life for myself and I just want to stabilize this thing and make sure it's repeatable over a long period of time? 2 totally different modes for operating a business. One is more like lifestyle driven, and that's always used derogatorily. I look at it as beautiful. When one is scale and go for big impact, big team, like really blow it out. I'm good with either one, right? But it's usually at that point when someone's trying to figure out which one they want to do that I start with. So that's one person. And the second one is some people get to like 5 million in revenue. They are scaling and now they have a leadership team in place, usually still creator founders. And it's like, whoa, I'm dealing with a whole new set of challenges here, which are primarily people driven. It's mostly internal, team focused, conflict, lack of clarity. We don't have a strategic plan. We don't know what our priorities are. People are fighting over it. That's a whole new set of challenges. And I work with executive teams on that. So that's kind of like the two groups. And I think I'm still working on defining, okay, what are their common challenges? And what I'm hearing you say is some of that is probably just going and doing more listening and trying to hear their words. What are the challenges you're facing at this point in your business that are making you think about, do I need an executive coach or not? And not necessarily in the context of you should hire me, but just like, let me really dig in and understand in the like customer research kind of way.
Yeah.
And so that tees us up then for what you were just saying, which is give them the experience of working with me.
Well, I want to point out something you're working on here that's really important for the audience is if you, the audience, if anybody says, I'm good at a bunch of things, you're good at nothing. Like nobody can remember more than one or two things about what a friend's good at. So it's the law of positioning. Reese and Trout basically says the more narrow your position, the more power, the more leverage, the more impact it has on the people that are in that situation. So even there, you had two buckets. I think I can remember those two. I can't right now. Well, I remember two buckets 3 months from now when I'm talking to somebody that says they might want to coach. I might not. So what's scary when you're growing a business is letting go of something. But I think at some point over the next month and years, my guess is what you'll do is you'll pick one of those. And even within one of those, you might even have a niche in that. And then you could do that. This is again, if you had 3 times more demand than what you can handle, that's when you really get to choose. You know, what I really wake up in the morning want to do is this one or that one. You choose one. And then you've got to have more work than you can handle to make those kind of calls. Right. If that makes sense.
It does make sense.
Which one do you think? I know you might have clients that are watching this, so you have to be careful. But do you like one? But if you think far out in the future, Barrett, which one of those might be your strongest desire?
So it's interesting because I have a business driven answer. So let me answer that one first, right? It's basically like the people at that decision point are the universal truth right now. Do I want to scale or stabilize? That is the core point when it just makes so much sense to hire me. Money's not an issue. It's really, what do I want from here? It's a problem of success, basically. I've grown so much, I didn't even ever think I'd get here. Now, what the hell do I do? That is a really powerful point for hiring me, and I'm exceptional at that. What I notice, though, is typically if people decide I want to stabilize here, it's a 6-month engagement. We lock it in. We really help them get clarity. They know exactly what they want. And they say, wow, you transformed my life. I don't need you anymore. And it's like, well, shit, that's a bad business model or something.
No, it's a great business model. It's a great business model because totally. the raving fan's more valuable than the limp along, hire you for a long time.
Yes, for sure.
Yep.
But if they go the scale route, what I notice is those clients tend to want to work with me for years at a time because the problems continue to be new and challenging, and they're like frontier problems for that person. But I know those challenges and I've been through them, and so I'm able to help. And those clients tend to be expansive. I build more business with them. There's more revenue to come. I end up working with multiple leaders within an organization. And so it's probably, if I were making like a really smart business decision, it would be the people, the creator founders that make it to about 5 million and have a team and feel like they're drowning. I don't know how to lead this team thing. Yep. That's probably really, and I think there's probably a little bit of a lie of like, well, how many of those people are there?
There's plenty.
Are there really enough?
Yeah. Yes, there are.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Yeah. And here's the thing. If you choose one thing to focus on, like, I don't know what the right answer is. Now that you've got the seed in your mind over the next couple of months, it will reveal itself. Like you'll know, you'll get off these calls and there's no energy for you, and get on those calls and they're high energy. Like the path will reveal itself. But what will happen when you have one thing is, and I'll show this to the audience, is, we do one thing. We do GrowBIG training. It's this super high end, like you said, marquee business development training for experts where relationships are paramount. Well, when you do one thing, you can spend years, they're better gear it this way so you can see it, developing materials that are absolutely stunning and beautiful and guide people through a system. And then once you've got content, you can certify. We've had about 200 people that have gone through a process to be able to teach this at scale to other people, whether inside organizations or on our team. And you can't do this if you have 2 or 3 or 4 things you do. You got to have one thing. You got to wake up in the morning with one thing on your mind. How can I get one step farther down the road at becoming even better at this one thing I do. And that is really scary, because if you're doing 3 things, it means you got to let go of 2. Maybe you do it one at a time. If you do 2, it means you need to let go of 1. But what I could see for your future is you pick one of those paths. 2 years ago, you had like 10 things you could do. You're down to 2.
Yeah.
Like, that's incredible progress. At some point, you pick one of these, then you can dial up your materials, your process, your marketing, what you share with somebody in an intake form, what your one speech looks like instead of having 2 speeches. Like, you can imagine, like, you want to get to the point where you can describe your solution in about 3 or 4 minutes to somebody, and they feel like, I have never heard it said that way before. Nobody has ever been that specific for that exact issue and has that kind of an impact. And when they can think, when in 3 to maybe 5 minutes, in 3 to 5 minutes, if they can hear you talk about what you do, a little bit of back and forth, you're having a conversation. It's not a elevator pitch. Like, I hate that because it's like a filibuster. When you can have a meaningful, authentic 5 minutes at most conversation, and somebody goes, I know somebody, or I've heard that, or I've got a friend, or I get it, or I'll let you know. You want them to be able to tell in 5 minutes or less what you do. It's super clear, and that you're differentiated and it sounds different to them.
Yep. Yeah, that's really good. That provides a lot of clarity already. Okay. So let's say we'll do this last little phase on demonstrating the work then. So let's say I'm going to shift up market, and this has been the progression, right? It's like I started and it's like, well, I'll take kind of anyone. And I just keep going up and up and up market because, you know, my core experience was I grew a company from $3 to $30 million in revenue. And I think I did a lot of things really well and learned a lot of lessons that help save people pain. And so I can imagine my equivalent of the big training. I think of it in my mind as like ops school. That's probably the wrong name for it, but it's like, what's all the internal stuff you got to get right as your team and your company are growing? And then I could imagine me being like the very premier level offering there of one-on-one coaching still for like a very select group of clients, because we've got so much demand and some people want that one-on-one support. But it's all the same client base. $3 to $5 million in revenue. You have a team. You probably have 3 to 4 leaders in place who are kind of like, in a big business, they'd be like manager level, but in your business, they're like CXO or director of whatever. And you're starting to see the complexities of relationships develop within the team, where different people have different priorities. Different people have different levels of tolerance for conflict. You don't have a uniting principle about how we do things here yet. And you're trying to say, how do we systematize how we operate internally for growing to $10 million in revenue or something like that? And I need help because I had never been here before. Okay. So how do I go about demonstrating my value to those people? Because they're probably highly skeptical based on how many pitches they get all the time.
Bingo. Because there's a million people who say they can do this. So what you want is something differentiated that helps you both on the doing of the work side, but also on the winning the work. So we're going to get a twofer for this. So I'm going to do something I don't usually do. I'm actually going to show you literally inside the print copy of the book. So like you can actually see the hash marks for the printer. Like, so
I love it.
The audience should not screenshot this and like take it to their printer and like sell Gift to Grow on their own. But
it's a violation of copyright if you do.
But what I want to show is this image, and it says so much. So for folks that are on audio, there's just 4 circles. That's all it is. It's real simple. So you'll be able to follow along even if you're driving on the highway. Circle 1 says introduction. I've gotten that referral, or for some reason I know somebody that might need my services. Step 2, we call this a give to get. What can you offer on your dime that would be massively helpful and with a very high flow through rate? Like we want, when it's a good fit, we want like a 90 or 95% acceptance rate to a purchase. Like, this is beautiful stuff. The third circle is small win. That might be an initial coaching project or something that could spread, or, hey, I think I want to do this, but I want to introduce you to my boss to get approval or whatever. And then big win would be you're hired for the big stuff that you do. Sometimes you can skip over the small win. So what most people do is they try to go straight from introduction to big win, meaning they introduce themselves, they talk about what they do, and they say things like, hey, can I send you a proposal? Or should I send over some contracting for you to review? Well, the problem with that is you're trying to get married on the first date. You're trying to move too far afield. The issue most times isn't money. The issue most times is riskiness. So we want to de-risk the process. So what do we want to do? Well, we want to offer some type of service on our dime. This is the difference between a sommelier talking about how great a bottle of wine is with the
I love this
winery, the
example.
vintage. Like somebody can go on and on and on about this big red Bordeaux, but if they bring you a little tasting glass and you taste it yourself, you want, like, 9 out of 10 times you want to buy the bottle, even if it's outside your price range. So the listeners, the viewers, they're all fine wines. Like, give them an experience of working with you, because the experience is far more compelling than hearing about an experience. So here's what I'm thinking, Barrett. Give to get. You've got some great stories to tell about your prior life and how you went from 30 to 30 and all that. And you can probably, you're so fast on your feet, you can likely tell stories and it can be quite compelling. But what if paired with that, you had the Barrett Brooks proprietary database of business scaling? What if there were 200 companies over time that were surveyed with a very specific question set that you can run correlation analysis on? And you can tell people that in the Barrett Brooks trademarked proprietary 19-factor model of what you can focus on in a business, it's these 4 that actually drive the results. And there's a specific process for focusing on those 4. So I'm envisioning you getting introduced to a group of business owners through whatever, a financial advisor, or whatever other methods you've got that you're already doing.
Mashup, whatever. Yeah,
Mashup could do it. And you basically say to everybody, hey, no charge to you. I've already got this database. If you'll fill out this form, I'll look at where you stack up against the database, do a benchmarking assessment for this whole group. And by the way, if you want a one-on-one call afterwards, I'm happy to actually talk about, what you would focus on yourself. You got 35 people in the room, I can give you some themes, but it's not quite the same as talking one-on-one. So this takes your introduction from, I like this guy, but I'm not sure I want to hire him, to the give to get is, holy moly, I'm looking at my results. I'm only 10th percentile on lever 2, and I'm only 43rd percentile on what's happening. I'm listening. I want to ask questions. Your small win is a one-on-one call with them to talk through their actual results. My guess is if you had a sequence like that, you're getting hired 95% of the time that you got.
That's really great.
And then just one more thought is, with something like that, if you chose to, you may not want to, because you're at the switch point yourself, lifestyle versus scale. If you wanted to, when you build systems like that, you can scale to as big as you want, because now it's the system that teaches, not Barrett Brooks's brain that teaches.
Yeah.
So what's your take on all that?
I love that. I think my next step is I'm going to brainstorm a bunch of great examples of give to get. So I'm going to read back through that chapter again and think in terms of, all right, what are the things I could give away here? Because the most obvious thing is an hour of coaching, right? But I really like the idea of something more scalable than that, because I might have 2 hours available a week that I can offer up.
Yep.
Whereas if I had something like that database or some other offering that is truly valuable, that scales much better to the kind of quantities that we'd be ideally looking at.
Yep.
So I'm going to brainstorm that as my next task.
It then could lead to articles. It could lead to books once you've gotten a lot of people through that system. The analysis leads to process. We do it in exactly these 5 steps or 3 steps or whatever. Like, I just think it would be an incredible way to codify what's already in your brain, but like 10x it, because the database itself is, nobody else in the world has this database. And then you've got the stories and the methods to get people from here to where they want to go.
Right.
I think there's something there.
I love that. This was awesome, Mo. Obviously, the book is the guide to all of this. And this is a really awesome, tailored way to talk about it. I always ask 2 questions to wrap up. We might only have time for 1, but I'd love to know, what is the most beautiful version of the future that you're trying to bring to reality through the work that you do every day?
I think the world is tired of sales books, into this sale and the that sale. I think that sort of centers everybody on themselves, either an implied or explicit selfish way. I'm going to reach my goals. I'm going to make money. I'm going to, whatever, hit my quota. And I think the world needs a book that, in a system, in a mindset, science and steps around having a relationship-centric approach, meaning I'm going to help people. I'm going to do it at every chance I can, but it's going to happen to help me achieve my goals as well. And what I've found, and with we train over 50,000 people at this point, is when you've got the relationship at the paramount, at the apex, but you also act in ways that will likely help yourself too, that you can build an incredible business, an absolutely incredible business that is super fun because it's blending altruistic, some kind of mission-driven approach. I know you've got a lot of people in your audience like that, with also the profitable economics. And I'll just finish this answer with this is, I just love that Walt Disney quote, we don't make movies to make money, we make money to make more movies. And I think
that's it.
I think when people can pair altruism and something that gets them up in the morning, that they've got a gift in the world they've got to give, with doing that in a way that's max profitability.
Yeah, that make money to make more impact. I love that. I might steal that, Mo.
Do it. I stole it. So,
all right, and 30 seconds or less, because I know we got a hard stop here. Who are you becoming through this work that you're doing?
The real me, maybe.
I love that.
The me I'm meant to be. Becky and I always talk about the people we're impressed with the most are the people that are living the life they're meant to live. And I don't care what that is, but you know it when you see it. And that's what I want to do. Yeah.
That's why you as a leader, you as a human being, a husband, a father, it's why you resonate so much with me. The way you live resonates so much with me. It's why I love you and respect you.
I feel the same way.
It's what's reflected in the new book, Mo. So thanks for spending a couple hours with me. I know people are going to get a lot out of it.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you, man. This has been a blast. Like I told you before, I wasn't sure how we'd spend 2 hours. Like, longest podcast ever. How was that? 2 hours or 10 minutes? I don't know. Just like that. You're so good. You're so good.
Thanks, Mo. Thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of Good Work. My name's Barrett Brooks. I'm your host, and this show is produced by my friends over at Podcast Royale. My guest today was Mo Bunnell. Mo is a longtime friend of mine. He's one of the best trainers in business development and sales in the world, one of the most connected people in the city of Atlanta. He's one of my favorite and most vulnerable human beings that I know. He's a great dad, and he's someone that I always turn to when I'm looking to learn both about life and about growing my business. If you want to learn more about Mo, you can find him at Bunnell Idea Group, BUNNELLIDEAGROUP.com. And if you want to attend his seminal training, you can check out that at BunnellIdeaGroup.com/training. He's also the author of 2 books. My favorite, the latest, is Give to Grow. This is a very human guide to what it means to build relationships and through giving, grow your business over time. And then his first book is called The Snowball System. And this is a very tactical, practical way to build a system to generate new business opportunities and new client relationships over time as well. Both excellent books. I did a book club on the Snowball System with my sales team back when I was managing the ConvertKit team. They loved it. It was extremely useful to us. And if I were still managing a team today, I would do the same with Give to Grow. If you enjoyed today's episode with Mo, I think you'll enjoy all of the conversations that I have on this show. So make sure to hit subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, whether that's Apple, Spotify, YouTube, anywhere. If you're feeling extra generous or you're already subscribed, you haven't yet left a review, I would really love it if you went to Apple or Spotify, wherever you listen, and click the star rating, ideally 5 stars, leave a comment on what you love about the show. And if you tune in on YouTube, just hit that like button, leave a comment, let me know what you took away from the show, just one idea. I appreciate you sharing on social media anytime you do. I look at all those things that you share. It makes me really happy to know that you're listening and you want to share it with other people. And that's how the show grows. So I'm really grateful for it. But more than anything, I'm grateful that you choose to spend an hour and a half, 2 hours of your week with me. Some of you week in and week out. I don't take it for granted. I try and make the most of the time that you spend with me. And hopefully you got something out of today's conversation. So thanks for being here, and I'll see you on the next episode.